Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Kyle Livingston, president of Seven Figure Industry, and you are listening to EA Interviews.
EA Interviews, episode 443.
Inspiration, transformation, success stories, and the imperfect action round. 7 days a week. Join Mario Ficini for today's Expert Authority Effect interview.
What a blessing I get to bring people to you. I know I generally start this off with like this big thing, building them up, and I'm going to, don't get me wrong, and Kyle, I see you watching me, so I don't worry, I'm going to, but I just really, I really feel like the guests really are helping you, and from a matter of resiliency, have you ever thought about having a successful business? I know you have. 7 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures. Most people don't reach that. Kyle's done it multiple times. He's helped other companies do it after being abandoned at a yard sale at 12 weeks old. The dichotomy that I see here is just like, I've gone through stuff myself, but I'm just blown away constantly, and Kyle is no exception, about how to overcome adversity, be persistent, grow a thriving business with a great attitude nonetheless, and then have other stuff happen and then build it back up bigger and stronger. So this is for you as much as it is for me right now, Expert Authority World, because I'm truly blessed and thankful you're enjoying this. I get to bring on great people like Kyle, and Kyle, sincerely, like I'm really blown away and can't wait to get into this. So I'm going to shut up now and cue the sponsor, but really congratulations. And I can't wait to hear the rest of your story right after we thank our sponsor. Every business needs a book, including yours. And that's why I'm launching my new book to help you regardless of where you think your current writing abilities are. Visit eapublishingmethodbook.com today to learn the 7 steps to publish and promote your nonfiction lead and profit-generating business book in 8 weeks. Once again, that's eapublishingmethodbook.com. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Kyle Livingston. Kyle, how are you feeling today?
All right, I'm feeling so good, man. I'm very, very excited to be on this with you and to share with your audience. So thank you for having me on.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, sincerely, like I was saying in the intro, because most people can't get knocked down, and there's people that take this path like something bad happened, well, I'm just doom and gloom the rest of my life. You could have done that not only once, but twice, maybe thrice, and I have no doubt multiple times. So take us back to the beginning. And, you know, I want to, let's do this. We'll foreshadow, like, you've built multiple 7-figure companies and you've helped other people do it. I got to say, I got to ask you about how to run your business in 5 minutes a day. Like, for sure, tell us about that. But let's just start at the beginning and just tell me your story, man, because I want to know, like, how the heck you even got here after everything that happened. Both of them, both of the things that I know about.
Absolutely. I mean, we can go back as far as the beginning, like you alluded to in the intro. Dude, I was my birth mom was total druggie, decided to do her own thing, had set up an adoption, a handshake adoption with a family, went against her word, tried to have an abortion 3 separate times. During labor that she went into 6 weeks early, she decided, she's like, dude, I don't want to go through the adoption. I'm going to keep him. And I was in an incubator for 6 weeks. She took me home for 6 weeks. But because she had her habits and wanted to party and wanted to be, not a mom, she drives over to these people's houses that were having a yard sale that were supposed to adopt me. And I was 12 weeks old. They're selling everything at the yard sale that was in the nursery. And so half of the stuff was already gone. And she walks up with me, the first time they've seen me ever. And she walks up and she goes, hey, I need to go party. Can you just watch him for a couple of hours? Night goes by, she doesn't show up. Next day goes by, doesn't show up. The next day, so 2.5 days in, she calls and she's like, hey, I decided I don't want to keep him, so you guys can if you want. And so obviously I'm thankful, but they decided to say yes and decided that they would keep me, thankfully. And, they raised me in a home that was the best that they could, but it was also in a really rough neighborhood of Southern California in a little town called Hemet. And, dude, I was actually joking with a good friend of mine about this, and he's always telling me, he's like, bro, you had every opportunity growing up to go left. He goes, like, right. You were left at the yard sale, you were adopted, like, you had every opportunity to go left. And he'd always ask me, like, why didn't you? Mm-hmm. And
Why didn't you?
Well, I had three older siblings that were really into drugs. They were really into that whole, ghetto world of life, if you will, where it comes with the drugs, alcohol abuse, all these things. And I watched the life that they had as an adult, because my closest sibling up to that point was 12 years older than me. And so I watched the life that they had growing up, and I'm like, I don't want that life. I watched the life of people that I knew growing up, and it's like, I was wise enough at a young age to learn from their mistakes and not follow that same path.
That's huge, because for everyone that can have that same decision, not everyone takes it. And I can relate to seeing examples of people nowhere's near that bad. And, I personally want to say I'm sorry that you went through that, but I know you overcame and everything, but it's still it just saddens me. But clearly you made the right decision and it's working out for you. So when did you start, at what age when did you get into self-development? Was it a high school thing, college, or much later?
No, it was a high school thing, actually. So I had always had like a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit. I had gone around, mowed lawns, washed cars, kind of did all of that whole thing, that the lemonade stands, all of that. But I was on a wrestling team in high school, and we were at one of the guys in the wrestling team, like his dad's house or something out of town. And I'm sitting there having a conversation with his dad, and I'm telling him about the lawns I'm mowing and the cars I'm washing and the detail business I'm starting on the side and all these things. And he goes, "Hey, hold on one second." He goes into his office or whatever, and he brings out the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I'm 15 years old, first time I'd ever heard of this book. And I never read a book in my entire life, and didn't read this one either until a couple of years goes by, and I open it up. I'm 16 and a half, 17 years old at that point. And that was kind of like my introduction into it. And it was the first time I realized, like, there is a whole larger world outside of what I know. And that was kind of I just went all in at that point with all the, the classics of Zig and Tony Robbins and everybody, and just started consuming everything that I could at that point.
Okay. $1 million question. How long did it take before it started taking root? So you were 15 into high school age-ish.
Yep.
When did you start going full throttle in business? What was that gap of self-development in the meantime before you were like, all right, I think I got it. Let's go for this.
Well, I'll tell you the time that it shifted for me. Okay. When I realized what I wanted wasn't what I actually wanted. And then I can tell you that the after side of that. So I was driving down the freeway in a work truck that I had from a construction company I'm working for. And it's an old beat up work truck. I got a piece of plywood for a tailgate. My steering wheel's all messed up. Like I can't even, and I'm driving down the freeway. There's a big billboard.
1/2 inch or 3/4?
Oh, 100% 3/4. The only thing that's going to keep those cement bags in there, man. And there's a big billboard on the side of the road, and it says, "If you didn't make 10K last month, call me." So I call the number, right? I dial it up. I call the number and leave him a voicemail. Didn't get an answer. Left him a voicemail. 3-4 days go by, something like that. Totally forgot I had called. And up to this point in my life, I'm 18 years old. And man, Mario, I thought if I could get to 10K a month, I was going to be set free. I thought that was like the epitome of success. I win if I can get to 10K a month. So 3-4 days go by, and I get a call back from this guy named Randall. And this was probably the moment in my life where I realized that what I thought I wanted versus what I wanted was very different. And so he brings me into this network marketing style, real estate education thing. And I'm walking into the room, and I realize that people are talking about 20K, 50K, 100K, multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars of income. And I immediately go, like, everything in my brain just breaks. And I immediately go, like, I actually didn't want 10K. I want the freedom that this life brings me, that all of these other people have. But the first time I went all in on it was I was 21. So between 18 and 21, really between 16 and 21, really big into self-development, really big into learning everything, really big into just downloading everything. And then I kind of went all in at 21 with my first official business.
What one was that?
So at the time I was building cell phone towers, those big, crazy tall towers. Yeah. right? So I was in the industry building towers, and I had progressed my way through the ranks of a couple of different businesses, and I was 21 years old, and I was the highest grossing project manager for the entire company. And they had 28 offices between US and Canada, and we were just crushing it. And my boss loved me, but his boss didn't like me because I was so young. And so I kept trying to get a raise, kept trying to get a raise, finally get this guy. Now, keep in mind, this guy looks like Dr. Eggman from Sonic, if you've ever played the game. Okay, so I'm sitting in an office with Sonic. Dr. Eggman on the other side of me, got the big old mustache and everything. And I tell him what I want to make, and I say, hey, other project managers are making this. I'm outperforming them. I just want a fair shot. I want what they have. And he looks at me, he goes, you're too young to make that kind of money. So I pulled up my company credit card, my company keys, gave him my company computer, and I walked out.
Nice. I'm
sitting on the curb, waiting to be picked up because I no longer have a company truck, going, dang it, what did I just do? Like, shoot, did I just give away like my 6-figure a year cushy corporate job?
You bet it on yourself.
What's that?
You bet it on yourself.
I did. I bet it on myself. And so while I'm sitting on that curb waiting for my ride, I start dialing and making phone calls to people. And before I got picked up, I had landed my first gig doing some cell phone tower repair out in the middle of the desert. And then I remember going and doing that job and coming back and being like, I just made more in 2 days than I made for an entire week. Like, I need to do more of this. And that started me on that path of like owning a business, understanding business, and really becoming the serial entrepreneur that I feel like I am today, having started and failed multiple different things. That was kind of the start for me.
That's huge. I started my first business at 12, and I didn't start working anywhere till 16. Didn't even really want to, but I feel like it was just like societal pressure because it's like, oh, when are you going to go to job? Oh, that whole thing. But I 100% can relate to, there was a payment shipment at one of the places I was working. The checks had to be flown at, this is when things weren't digital. Date me a little bit. It was more than a few years ago, but we physically got checks flown in from across the country, something about a thunderstorm or snow, whatever, and people were losing their stuff. And I was just like, I could care less. I literally had 4 sources of income at that point, and I was 18. And same thing, make more in 1 day, 2 days than all week working somewhere else. And it was like, I always knew, but who says you can't double dip either? When you're starting off and you really don't know what you're doing to the mostly, I had that core in the heart, but it was, I wasn't programming a spaceship or anything. I was just doing what I could and was legally allowed to. So that's why I say bet on yourself. For anyone listening, if you're not 21 and you do have a wife, family, kids, other situations, I've thought twice about some of the stuff I've done. But at the end of the day, 40 years, that's my own personal hell, 40 years doing something that's just killing you and everyone around you. So good for you.
Yeah, man. Well, if those people are listening and you have bigger dreams and ambitions and goals, like you owe it to your family to take them there.
Yeah. Let's go down this line here too. So what happened after 21? So
after 21, started that first company. Called my credit union, oddly enough, and they gave me like a $10,000 on a credit card that I could use to start my business, which was awesome. Built it to a pretty successful clip, and kind of saw some shifts happening in the market and wanted to get out. I was going through a divorce at the time, wanted to kind of shift some stuff up, and was able to get out and exit fairly successfully. I was 22, actually, so I've been doing it about a year. Had built up a ton of contracts on the books. And I was able to exit at a decent rate for me at the time, right? Tens of thousands of dollars. And I had stepped out and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. Kind of was having second guesses about the industry, didn't really want to stick in it, mainly because everybody in the industry wasn't into self-development. Like they were into drugs and like, it was just a different world for me. And, but it was also familiar from how I grew up too. And so I get a call from a gentleman, his name is Mike. Get a call from him. He's like, hey, my company is bleeding cash. I hear you're very good at this. Will you come help me with my business? You got referred from this big wig over at AT&T. Will you come help me with my business? I was like, dude, I'm not interested. I just sold. I want to go take some time off, going through a divorce, not interested. He
I'll
goes,
double it.
have dinner with me. And so I invite him to a sushi restaurant, find out later on down the road he doesn't even like sushi, meets me at the sushi restaurant, and he goes, hey, here's the situation. I'm losing money every month. I need some help. What do you want? And I asked for this crazy thing that I knew he was going to say no to, yet he didn't say no. He said yes. So now I get equity. I get I get 10K plus per month. I get an expense card. I get everything I want. We turn his business around, sell it just about a little over a year later, make a good little chunk of change off of that. And I'm high on the horse. My head's can't even fit through doorways at this point. I think I'm King Tut, and start another one. So have another one with a couple of friends, get an investor to come on. We do really well. The investor and I get into a disagreement. He buys me out. Winning again, right? I thought I was on top of the world, Mario. Like I thought anything I touched was turning to gold. So I decided to get out of the industry altogether, go back into real estate full time. That's where I met my now wife, was actually at that real estate investment club. But
Nice.
while I'm doing this and trying to do this, I get a phone call from some people in the telecom world. And the guy goes, hey man, the company that you just sold, they went out of business. So your NDA with them is no longer valid. I have $4 million of work. Do you want it? Yeah, absolutely I do. Thinking, everything I touch in this industry works and turns to gold. Well, 9 months later, hired and fired 64 people on a crew of 30, right? At a height, we were at 30. Hired and fired 64 people. I had 11 trucks now for the business, and we were cruising. So we were a fairly large operation. And I'm 9 months in, and we've done about, $2.5 million in revenue, and I'm upside down 160 grand. So I'm completely out. Everything that I had poured back into these businesses and then some. And I have to make the decision, either keep going with the potential of losing more based on the rate we were going, or shut everything down and walk away. And so I decided, this was 2016, I just decided I had to shut everything down and walk away. So $160,000 plus in cash just completely wiped out from my, at the time, which was huge for me, completely gone. And I'm now starting over and having to figure out what I'm doing next.
Wow, that's kind of surreal, because I know early on you get things going, you want things to go right, you get them going right. You made that. I had a goal also. I was like, if I could just make 10 grand a month. I remember the first time I did it, I was like, I'm a millionaire. Math is a little off, but it just felt like, when you don't have it, it's a lot. I'll leave it at that. But then things go on, and you think nothing's going to change, and it did, and for you in a big way. So I love how you left it on a cliffhanger. What happened after what was your decision, and what did you do after?
The decision was to just shut it down and move on. So, we ended up getting rid of everything. We were in Texas at the time. We sold everything that we could, moved back to California. And I had made a commitment at that point. I said, I'm no longer going to work in this industry, regardless of what it takes. Like, even if I were to get a call to have $20 million in business.
And then next day you get a call and someone's going, hey, we know you shut the business down. Yeah. I know this great little sushi place.
Yeah, exactly. Literally. And so I just completely disconnected. My girlfriend at the time, now wife, we bought a 36-foot RV, completely gutted it. And I just needed some time to de-stress. And so I spent the next 3.5, 4 months just remodeling it to get out of like, holy cow, I just lost business and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so we remodeled it, and I went online, and I actually knew some friends that had been quite successful online, didn't really understand the online world at the time. But one of my friends, his name was Chris. He's like, learn how to do advertising for other businesses. So I was like, great. So I went online, bought every course I could possibly imagine on how to run ads for other businesses, went and parked our RV in a forest, and I sat there for the next 6 months learning the online world. And was kind of how I got into the online space to begin with, was actually just doing Facebook ads for like chiropractors and dentists and just small brick and mortar businesses. And I had a client at one point, and let me back up one sec before I tell you about the client.
Please.
because of the studying and everything that I had a gentleman offer me 50% of a business deal. Hey, let's go in 50-50 on this deal. I have these big contracts. You know how to do this. I know how to do this. Let's go in. And we land these big contracts, and the guy cleans out the bank account the next day and walks away. So we were in business all of 9 months together. And here I am again, now, shortly after the loss of my business, now having lost another one almost overnight. And so in the matter of 2 years, I've lost everything twice. And I thought, like, dude, this has got to be rock bottom. Like, this has got to be the bottom. Like, I can't go down any further. And it took a season of just survival to get back to a place where I had enough energy and bandwidth to think about doing another business.
Right.
You know?
I want to enunciate that point, because I've gone through stuff too and had to turn it around. And I think there's a lot of people who think, okay, that didn't work out. Now I got to jump into something else, whether it's relationship, personal, business, whatever. And I just want it to be clear, and maybe you can expand on it too. Like, how vital was it to take that time and go and just think before you go full throttle into something else?
In the moment, I didn't think much of it, right? In the moment, it wasn't, I need to take time and think. It was, I need to go figure out how I'm paying rent in 3 days, you know? But looking back on the season, because I went back into a season of construction for some time to just make ends meet. And for me, I had found out that, like, working with my hands and building things actually created thinking space for me. And so while I was doing the jobs and, you know, building the cabinets and doing the kitchens and the bathrooms and all this, it gave me that time to figure some things out. And looking back on it, I think the thinking time, and this is what I tell clients all the time, the thinking time is more valuable than the doing time. And you will get more done and more accomplished in the thinking than you will ever in the doing. And so if you feel like you're spinning wheels and you're sitting on ice and you can't get traction, you might just need to spend more time critically thinking about how you're doing what you're doing and less time doing what you're doing.
I love that you're sharing that. My first business was lawns when I was 12, and I loved listening to cassette. There were cassettes back then, but listening to, maybe not at 12, but as I got older and the self-development stuff, but just thinking through stuff. Some of the first stuff I thought about was designing a lawnmower that was more efficient. I even thought if you could put lasers on the side of it while you're cutting the side of the house, you wouldn't need a weed whack after, and it would save you, 6 minutes. So I love that you're sharing the thinking time, because I think it's a lost art. I don't want to say there's less people doing it. I think there's less people talking about it regularly.
Agreed. Well, and to be quite fair, like, I work with multiple 7-figure CEOs, and the amount of time they spend thinking in their business is like 1% compared to the time they spend doing in their business. And more often than not, that's part of the reason they're still stuck.
Expand on that, please. Especially, you said a few key things. 7-figure CEOs, 1% of the time. What if they just doubled it?
And to be honest, if business owners spent 10% of their time critically thinking about big problems, 10% of their time just creating space within the business to give them the like relaxation even to spend time thinking, and the other 80% of their time working in the business, they would probably have a business that's 2 or 3, sometimes even 4 times bigger than where it's at now. A lot, like, I'll give you a practical example. I had a client in 2022 that when we first started working together, it was chaos, dude. It was like the world was on fire every moment of every day, all the time. And it took us about 4 or 5 months to just calm the nerves of everybody on the team, create that space for the owner to actually spend time thinking, figure out where we're going and what's going on, and just kind of recenter everything. And we went from where we were at the first 6 months, and we did 4 times the revenue on the second half of the year than we did the first half of the year at a significantly higher margin. And I attribute all of it to just spending time thinking about what's working and what's not.
Now, when you say what's working or not, could that be software, people, team, just anything literally?
Yeah, anything literally. Like, what are the areas in the business that's bringing in the most revenue? And what are the areas in the business that's costing us the most revenue? Just that alone is huge. Like, you'd be shocked how many people, because the business is doing so well from a revenue perspective, ignore all of the things like here's a silly practical example. The amount of subscriptions that these CEOs are paying for that they're not using is insane. It's insane. And if we just take, let's say we save $1,000 a month and we can turn that $1,000 into $40,000 because we know how to run ads and do that successfully, you're literally finding $30,000 to $40,000 sitting in your business because you're paying for dumb subscriptions because you've never spent any time thinking about what subscriptions you're not using.
Under leverage
all day long.
Like severely. Yeah, that's huge. Why do you think so many people sign up for stuff like that? Is the marketing so good, or do you really think there's an intent of this may help us in the future sometime if?
I think a character trait of most successful business owners is shiny object syndrome. And I think they spend a lot of time chasing the new shiny penny because they think that's the magic pill to solve the problem in their business. They start playing with it and realize that it's not, and realize that they just got had by the marketing tactics, because there are some incredible marketers in the world. They just got had by some crazy good marketing tactics, and they forget about it because they're too busy putting out fires and being reactive. I do think they get got by marketing more often than it actually being the right solution to the problem.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think there's two sides of that because it's something I've thought about. I've always been very heart-centric, and when we're doing a book for you, we're going to do the absolute best, do stuff that we might not even mention or think about. But at the same time, it's like I really do have a goal of helping 10,000 business owners, and it's like you can't do – I don't think they're interchangeable. Like I think you can do great marketing with great heart. But I've also seen at times where it's like, oh, this is so cool and I'm ready. And I go, wait a second. There's 3 more days left of this. Let me think about it tomorrow. First thing. And I'm like, I don't need this.
Yeah. All the time. Well, people, especially in the online world, over the last, going super macro, right? Pre-2008, everybody sold the American dream. It was the American dream, American dream, American dream. 2008 happened. Everybody's like, you're a liar. I no longer want the American dream. That's no longer the promise that you can sell me on. And then everything moved into pain-based marketing, right? I'm going to market to you to get away from pain. And that's honestly gone on until mid-COVID. And now people are starting to buy based on trust and do I actually like the person and do we resonate with the person? And like, they might be able to help me, but if I hate working with them, that matters more than getting the help. And so I think the market's kind of shifting a little bit in that sense too, where it's like, people will pay more and move faster to run away from pain. But yet I think people are also moving into a place where they want to actually enjoy the people that they're working with and be aligned with them. Because everything is kind of moving back into that heart-centered position where, like I have to really enjoy your company if we're going to spend the next 6 months working together as client and customer type of relationship. And I think that's becoming more prominent in today's marketing than anything else has before.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I came up with a quote a while ago, and I'm so blessed now because we literally get about 300 applicants for every 30 spots. Oh. And there's sometimes I'm like, they have a really great story. They're really good. But there's something missing. And some of them, it's like, they're just not at the, like maybe they don't have a book or a course, or they just scaled it up enough to help a bigger audience. And I don't want to feel like I'm sending my listeners off a cliff. Like, hey, you just fell in love with this person for an hour. There's nothing else you can do. Thanks. Like, I don't like that. But the other thing is there's people that are like rock stars. Like they might have 8-9-figure business. They've, built a spaceship. They have they built a satellite, landed on the moon and all this. I'm like, there's just something about them. You watch a video and the quote is, it's not that you're not qualified. It's just that I don't like you.
That's accurate. I mean, and that's where things are moving to.
Do you think it's because people are getting back to like caring about others, or do you think it's that they're paying more attention to their finances? And it's like, I feel like 20, 30 years ago, it's like, oh, this company's like dumping oil in the water or whatever, which is horrible. But people were like, oh, they still make a nice product. They're still the best.
Right.
Where do you think that shift changed? Because I think there's more money now than ever before.
Agreed.
Do you think people are just becoming more heart-centric?
I honestly think it's driven from a selfish place.
Oh, tell me about this. How?
I think that there are a lot of charlatans, especially in the online world, right? I think there are a lot of charlatans and shysters and people who promise the world and leave you wanting more, to say the least. And I think that there has been a huge influx of people into the online world, a huge influx into cheap advertising that was the world of Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, which is no more. And I think that people are just sick and tired of being fooled.
Mm.
And when you go into a relationship with someone, in a business relationship, and you hand over $100,000 for a consulting fee, and you're not a real big fan of the person, and you don't get anything on the back end, it's like lose, 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 lose. I don't like you. I gave you my money. I didn't get the result. Right? But if I come to a place where it's like, hey, I actually like you, and if I give you $100,000 consulting fee and it doesn't work out, like I trust you enough to know that you're going to make it right. And people are wanting to have relationships versus just being sold to. But I think a big part of it happened during COVID, where you have everyone and their mother is a consultant today, like, and their sister, and like everybody is a consultant or coach or something of some kind, selling you something somewhere. And I think people are just tired of getting burnt by it.
Okay. I would agree. I mean, it's never the right thing to do, and it was never more acceptable 14 years ago, but
right.
I agree. It's remind me of a clip from that Family Guy creator, Seth MacFarlane, the Western movie, when he's like, what is it, Mr. Bitter's Miracle Juice or whatever? And he's like, cocaine, menthol, cyanide, in red flannel. He's like, red flannel? He's like, what's that? Science.
Yeah. And people are bottling that stuff up and selling
world renowned. He's like, by who? He's like, people.
Literally. People. Yeah, I agree. And I think it's just people are just getting tired of the not getting results. You know, and that's why, like, our business, we sell results. We don't sell time. We don't sell energy. We don't sell, we sell results. And if we don't get them, you don't pay for them.
Give us an example of the results from one of your clients' success story, and let's break down how you do it for people.
Yeah. So I would say probably one of the most ones that I'm proud of over just this last 12 months. We took a client, they were about between 80 and 130 a month on average, which typically that's on the lower end of people I work with just from a revenue standpoint. And they were just struggling to turn a profit. And so we took them from about 80 to 130 a month. We got them to 400 a month consistently, and went from no profit to 70% plus profit margins just in the course of a year. And it was for the owners. I mean, it was radically life-changing for them. We were able to bonus and give higher salaries to everybody on the team. And so, you know, we've created a machine that will then over the next few years become, you know, a very healthy 8-figure a year business.
It's not bad. I mean,
not bad at all.
I've seen people have a goal of going, man, I wish I could get to $100,000 a month. And at that point, the math does add up. Anything over 83K a month is $1 million a year. Yeah. But I've also seen people get bummed out. They're like, oh, why are you so sad? Oh, we only did 76,000 this month.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so that's cool. You're, you know, joking aside, it's, you know, every business wants an increase, and best I can tell, 80 to 400. That's what, 500, 600% increase.
Yep.
Or you said 80 to 130 and then 400. Either way, it's great growth. So
great growth.
Kudos on that. I want to ask you about the profit maximization. Is that one of the first things you look at? And you've mentioned it a few times. I don't want to glaze over it because it's important. But if they're at 80 a month, do you maximize and go, hey, we can get you maybe, even if it only was 90 or 100, and I know that's not the limits, but you can actually make more at 82 grand than you did at 80, even though it's relative. So do you start with the profit maximization, or do you focus on, let's just scale this up, and in the meantime, we'll be doing it?
It's going to really depend on the business. More often than not, though, we're focusing on the acute problems that the business owner has, because the reason they're not profitable, like if I think second, third, fourth order consequence, right? The fourth order consequences are not profitable. First order consequence is the business owner's reactive 12 hours a day and trying to get the business owner tasks done from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. before everybody bombards them with questions and just overwhelms their inbox all day long. And so more often than not, there's an acute problem that the business owner has and wants to separate themselves from as fast as possible. We just brought on a client this month, and the business owner's acute problem was that he was still running, leading, and managing the sales team. When in reality, he's trying to be a CEO. They do multiple millions of dollars a year, and he's still doing a position that really he shouldn't be doing. And so the first thing there was building the systems around a sales team and bringing someone in to take over and run the sales team so the owner can get out of that and focus on bigger levers to pull on. So it's different for everybody, but the main goal is how do we get you out of your acute problem you're having right now?
Okay. For anyone listening that goes, you know what, I've been burned by ads, I don't want to do ads, yada, yada, yada. How would we get them past that mindset?
So I also have been burned by ads. I lost $35,000 over this last summer in ads and got zero results from it. So I've also been burned by ads. Zoom out. The world is so full of different acquisition channels. And your goal with that, with ads, is acquisitions. How can I get more clients to come into my doors of my business? And if you look at, like one of the big things that I've re-engaged this year is print newsletters and print advertisings, sending them to people's houses. And so when you zoom out and you figure there's so many different ways to actually do marketing and acquisitions, like Facebook ads and YouTube ads aren't the only way. And there are one or two of 50 different channels that you can actually advertise in front of people. Let me ask you a question, Mario. Do you know how Houdini became famous?
No.
Okay.
Marketing, telling people,
Kind of.
wowing them that they were telling others.
Well, he wasn't that good of a magician. So word of mouth wasn't going to be it for him. I'm going to be honest. He was not that good of a musician. But back in his day, if you go to the movie theater, they used to play advertisements, they used to play newsreels where there are now advertisements. And so before the movie, you'd sit down and you'd see a local newsreel playing, and the theater would have to contract with the local news station to cast in the local news. And the theater would have to pay to have the ability to do that. Well, Houdini went to all of his local theaters and gave them a newsreel to play before every single movie. He said, and I'll give it to you for free, so I'll save you thousands of dollars a month. Well, the newsreel was him hanging upside down in a straitjacket, which at the time everybody was doing, but he was hanging upside down by a crane, and it looked like a newsreel. Crazy man hanging upside down, trying to escape, whatever the headline was. And so he went into places where he was unexpected, such as a movie theater, and that was the reason he became famous, was because he went in places he was unexpected. I'll give you another example. We do a very big conference every year for one of the biggest tools that we use online. And every year there's 5,000 to 7,000 entrepreneurs all in the same exact space in Florida. Well, we were there last year, and on the bottom of their cups, they had these little magnets that said advertise here, and nobody was advertising there. No one, right? And so we went immediately, and I secured the spot for this year, to have my face on the bottom of every single cup in the hotel for 10 days. Like, the likelihood of somebody not knowing me by the end of their time there is like this big, right? It's just, there's so many different acquisition channels. You just got to find and be a little bit more creative and just not follow what everybody else is doing.
That is phenomenal. I love the idea you said sending mailers, and it's one reason I tell people, do a book. Yeah. You can physically send it. It's a high value thing, and you can get past gatekeepers. It's way more valuable than email now, but I did not know that about Houdini in the movie theaters.
Yeah.
I actually thought he was a good magician. Who's the other one? David Copperfield is a more modern time, or David Blaine, but everyone makes that example, like, who are you, Houdini? Like, he has been so, and that's the beauty of the repetition in advertising. Like, I really had no clue, and I study advertising and marketing, all the time. I always have. That's why it's my company. But
exactly.
Wow. So he made his own newsreels.
Yeah, made his own fake newsreel, gave it to the theater. So for the theater, it was a win-win. They don't have to pay, and they get news, right? And at the time, the theater didn't care if it was news or not, but it looked like news. That's what people wanted.
Yeah.
And he made a win-win and got in front of tens of thousands of people he would have never been able to get in front of before.
So That's impressive, because when you were saying, I think about it now, I don't even know how much it would be to advertise at the movies, if anyone even goes to the movies, which they should, because it's awesome. But you know what I mean? It's things have changed, but at the same time, it's like now you have to pay for ads, and right when you go, the movie theaters had to pay them. I'm like, well, how do I buy one of those news companies from 80 years ago, because the movie theaters are paying you for promotion?
Yeah.
So
Crazy, huh?
as far as the magnets go, I got to ask you more about this. So now that you've acquired it, and good job.
Thank you.
Are you looking at it with KPIs going, okay, there's 10 days there. How many people would you say? Couple thousand?
5 to 7,000.
Okay. So 5 to 7,000 over 10 days. So essentially 50 to 75,000 is impressions. And I know people are going to see it once, but let's keep the numbers simple. Are you looking at any KPIs for, well, it's costing us, it's an investment of this much per cup, basically return on, what would it be? Cup placement instead of ad spend?
It's all return on ad spend, whether it's at and time. Like Houdini's investment was a crane, was a film crew. Like he invested, and everything's return on ad spend. And so 100% there's KPIs. And so with all of this, because we have such a high ticket offer, 2 clients, we will more than break even. If we get 2 clients over the next 12 months from that one campaign, we will by far more than break even.
Okay. Wow. Do you want to share what your offer is? I'm going to ask you again, but what is since it's relevant, what's the minimum to get started with you? So what's the offer?
We have a couple different ones depending on where you're at, right? And so for businesses and CEOs and visionaries who are at the 150K and less mark, or under 150K mark, we actually have a reoccurring subscription model that we do for them. It's $97 a month, and it's called the Visionary Index. And basically what the Visionary Index is just like I just referred to, like it's ROAS, regardless of what business it's in. There's only so many different problems that you can actually have in business, especially at the under 150K a month mark. Like there's not that many things that plague your business. Like you're not having to lay off an entire call center at less than 150K a month. Like there's only so many things that can be an issue. So Visionary Index at $97 a month, anytime you're running into a problem like, hey, we're spending too much on ads, or hey, I can't close these deals, or hey, I'm not getting anybody to upgrade, you simply go into the Visionary Index, type in your problem, and it spits out 5 to 7 relevant video trainings for you to eat in 5 minutes a day that will help you get in and diagnose the actual problem that you're facing in the business. Again, without having to use too much of that thinking time to actually solve it.
Wow, impressive.
So that's for 150K or less than 150K. For 150K plus, we have a fractional COO service is basically what we do. And so we go into these companies, and myself and my team, we go in and take over as second in command. And we basically run the entire company. So the goal is to get the visionary out of the day-to-day as fast as possible. The fastest way to understand what's going on in the day-to-day is to put our team in there. And so we understand what's going on in the day-to-day. And you ever seen those Atlas statues, like the dude that's holding the world?
Absolutely.
And so in my mind, I imagine a visionary feels like that. And so typically my goal is to build the infrastructure and the support system for them to roll the globe onto and get it off their back. And so that's kind of like the analogy that I use there is like, how can I build an infrastructure system to get that off of you?
I love that you're using and what does that run?
Well, infrastructure is just a piece of it. And so that we from infrastructure, we then, once we have it, we actually get data, and I'll wrap this up real quick. We get data because in my opinion, you can't troubleshoot a business with emotion or conjecture. You have to have the numbers.
You need to know the facts.
Yeah, you got to know the facts. And then once you know the facts, just because you know the facts doesn't mean you know how to actually diagnose the problem. And so we get the data, and then I teach the owners how to actually diagnose certain problems within the walls of the business based on the data. And for our service for the year, it's $100K for the year. But we put skin in the game and we say, hey, listen, if we don't hit certain KPIs, you don't pay us.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I heard you say that real nonchalant earlier about we get you results or you don't pay. A lot of people don't claim that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we put skin in the game. Like, just for me to bring my team in and take over your business, that's a big overhead for me, right? And so if we go in and can't get you the results, I don't want your money. Because the last thing I want is my reputation getting dragged through the mud. Last thing I want is a bunch of chargebacks and my merchants shutting down my accounts. Like, I don't want to play that game. So it's like, we determine certain KPIs. We have a base rate just to cover expenses for the month. It's a very small base rate. And then we say, hey, listen, once we get you to these KPIs, this is what you're going to owe us. And 9 times out of 10, the business owners don't believe they can actually get there. And like, yeah, no problem. We'll do that all day long. And then once they get there, they're like, this is the best investment I've ever made.
Have you ever done any equity sharing deals with people where you say, instead of saying we'll give you straight cash, we'll do the cash and equity like you talked about, you structured earlier on?
I've done those. A couple of things that I've learned from those and why I'm not a huge fan of them is, one, you have to negotiate for the equity before the equity is available. Because if we get people these certain KPIs, we get people these certain success rate, and that now becomes the normal for them. When I ask to participate in the winnings, it feels entitled. And so I always have, if I do anything like that, it's always negotiated up front. And it's typically based on a revenue share, not an equity. Here's why I'm not a huge fan of any equity plays is Dan Kennedy. I listen to Dan Kennedy a lot. And Dan Kennedy had brought this to my attention a couple of years back, and I kind of tested it out, and I was like, this is actually really true. And it's the more successful these businesses become, and the longer the relationship that they have with you, the faster they have a distaste and a disdain for you, the bigger the check becomes. And so as they go through the whole year, and let's just hypothetically say that the retainer was a $6K a month retainer just to get things moving, and now you're paying $35K a month over the course of a year. You look back, your accountants look back, and like, you're paying this dude $350,000, and if I've done my job right, like, the business should run pretty smoothly. And so now there's not a whole lot of input needed from me, and I have to be penalized or have a distaste from the owner because he's having to write me such a big check every month.
I gotcha. Or like the one you talked about, 80 to 130 and then $400K a month. Like, you're not going to have to keep experimenting 58 different campaigns to narrow down the ones that are working. It should be running smooth. And so I would say it's the mindset shift of the owner should be going, I want to pay you double for making it so smooth. But the reality is you're going, okay, this is $350K. However, we're now doing $4.8 million a year, and we were only doing 1.2 before. Like, you should get it. But I get the point of, you're now, it feels like you're paying for nothing now, even though you didn't make them pay $5 million up front for all the hard work. And, I get it.
It's funny. I have a saying is that money will give people amnesia. And it's funny because they'll get to a certain level and forget that they were at this level just 12 months ago. Yeah. And they're at a particular level. And it's like, you realize you were just doing $80K a month in January. And now you're doing 400, and you're like, the world's burning down if you do less than 280 a month. Like I was joking earlier, like, oh, you had a bad month. It was only 79K. Yeah.
You're making more in a month than statistically most people make in a year, and you're bummed about it. But again, if you're doing 200, 300, 400 a month, then or more.
More.
I know people. I know people. They're like, "Oh, we only hit 892,000, like, or 936." Like, really, you're upset you didn't mill a month?
I had a client, and she was actually the reason that I won't work with business owners unless they have failed in a 7-figure business before. It's like,
oh, tell me about this.
So I have this client, or not any longer. I have this client. It's 2021. We start working with her in January, and actually, no, it was a few months in, probably March or April. And she was at $800K a year. We take her from $800K a year, and we get her to, for the rest of the year, we get her to 1.8 million. And I fly out to Texas with her, and I'm sitting down reviewing everything with her. And she's literally yelling and cussing in the middle of the lobby because she did not hit $2 million for the year. Like, losing her mind, dude.
I'm like, what was she at before?
800.
So more than double.
Yeah, way more than double. And her margin just blew up. And she's angry. like physically, emotionally distraught.
Okay, tell me you recorded it.
I wish I would have recorded it, man. It would make the best ad ever. I didn't expect it to happen. Like, I'm there, we're talking about good stuff, we're talking about the next year. She literally, the day before this, went and bought a brand new Range Rover SVR cash, middle of COVID, for like 240 grand cash. Brand new. Drove it off the lot 24 hours before our conversation, and she's angry. And I realized that she's never lost a business. She's never failed in business. She got tremendously fortunate, worked her ass off, but has never failed. And so the moments that are incredible highs, she has no idea what the other side feels like. And I give this analogy as I'm watching people sitting on the tracks of failure with the locomotive just going straight at them, and they have no idea it's coming. It's like, I can see it clear as day because I've been there. I've watched it happen. I've had it.
You want them to be appreciative.
No, yeah, I just want them to have perspective.
Yeah.
You did $2 million at a massive profit, and you're in the 0.001% of the world, and you're angry about it because you didn't make another 60 grand this year.
Well, Kyle, she could only get one Range Rover. Don't you know that? She wanted two, and it's all your fault. It's abundantly clear. I mean, doesn't everyone see that right now? Wow.
And so she actually offered to pay me in full for my services for the next year so she could use it as a tax write-off. And I told her no. And for me, it was one of the hardest decisions I had to make as a business owner because it was a big retainer for me, especially at that time. And I ended up telling her no, and it pissed her off so bad that she
returned the car.
She tried to do chargebacks on all the money she had paid me for the last, it was horrible because she lacked the perspective of what it feels like to lose.
Wow. That's horrible.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal, man.
I mean, it would make, it sounds like a movie story for some off-the-wall thing. Like, I'm glad you're sharing it. Sorry you went through it, but at the same time, how arrogant do you have to be to go, you turned me down, now I'm going to renege on everything that is just a whole different level of, all right, I just got to ask, where's this company at now? I kind of hope she's back at 800K because she sounds like a person that doesn't need a platform.
I don't disagree with you. Here's the horrible thing about social media is you can fake everything until they become a client.
Yeah.
And if you're really good at faking it, you can do millions and millions and millions of dollars. It just won't last forever.
Okay.
So
yeah,
I don't know.
What's that?
So I don't know where she's at from a revenue standpoint, but I can tell you she's probably not happy with wherever she is at unless she's gone through a dramatic transformation, and realized that holy cow, we actually have a pretty incredible machine here.
I don't know what would be funnier is if they actually went back to 800, 799, or they grew to 9.96.
Yeah, right. Just right there at the edge, just to piss her off even a little more.
Local multimillionaire in jail because she drove her Range Rover through a store for over 40 grand.
Wouldn't surprise me, man. Wouldn't surprise me.
Wow. Okay. Okay, so I got one more question before I ask you the other thing I need to. But for everyone listening, this has been great, obviously. If someone doesn't want to, I know there's a percentage that always want to try it on their own. So I want to ask this with the intent, okay, listener, if you're going to try this on your own, I want you to go, here's where I should start. And for Kyle, for you, for people that are going to come to you because they're smart and they're going to make the right decision, I said it, not you. I want to prep them so it's super easy to onboard them. What are a couple things that you should always be doing even before you get started, whether you want to do it on your own or get started with you? What are a couple of things that you should say, okay, here's what we're going to need in place no matter what. I don't even need to know your business, but here's where we're going to start. I want to save you some time.
Basic tracking metrics. If you can just track your business and have the high level numbers of what does it cost you right now to acquire a customer? What does it cost you right now to nurture that customer over 6 months? What does it cost you to fulfill on your programs? What's your cost of goods sold? Having just high level metrics really helps me be able to see everything from a 30,000 foot view, and then we can make adjustments pretty quickly. More often than not, I spend the first 90 days in a business just building enough infrastructure to get the actual data from the business.
I love that. I love that you're talking about that, because so many people, I'll use the proverbial example of, oh, Google or Facebook sent me $100 ad credit. I tried ads. It didn't work. Well, I mean, it's not going to if you don't have it set up. So that's great you're sharing about the KPIs. Why don't you touch on, we've been saying it, but for anyone who doesn't know, KPI stands for?
Key performance indicator. So if we're talking about weight loss, because I think a lot of people can relate to weight loss, right? The KPI isn't getting on the scale and seeing the number. The KPI is the amount of vegetables you ate and the amount of protein you've had, and it's the things that you track in order to get a result. Where in a business, the bank account and the profit is the result, but the key performance indicators or the leading indicators to that are going to be tracking metrics, how much you're spending, profit, loss, etc.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you for breaking that down. I want to give a little bit more in that front because I'm familiar enough. You're obviously the expert, but I just see so many people. They're like, they put out one ad on one channel one time with a broken headline and a bad image. It's like, I'm not even gonna just. I got this here. It's the wheel of whatever. Yellow or black?
Black.
Okay, black. Where do you see ads going over the next decade? Whether it's Facebook, YouTube, do you think there's going to be more video? Do you think one of them is going to... Do you think any of these platforms are actually going to disappear? Or go so far by the wayside that people stop using them, they're inefficient anymore?
Okay, here's why I don't think Facebook will disappear. Is they own your memories. How many times do you go on Facebook? 9 years ago, you did this. 6 years ago, you were doing this. So I don't think Facebook will go anywhere because they own your memories. Like, plain and simple. I think it will become more expensive to advertise on that platform. Like right now, for the first time in history, Facebook is more expensive than advertising on TV. Right?
Why?
Because you have, for anything that's inexpensive, right? Think of Facebook ads circa 2016. Nobody was doing them.
Right? I can go back as far as 11 or 12 when I started.
Yeah, so like you were probably one of the very few, and you were getting like pennies on the dollar compared to other traditional advertising, right? And now it's surfaced to where Facebook ads are the cheap thing, and everybody started to move and allocate budget over there. And you have now big players like Coca-Cola advertising on Facebook, spending millions of dollars a month into the marketplace, which is all it is. And it will eventually come to a place where it's too expensive for the smaller businesses or for the people like you and me to be able to advertise on there profitably, because it's just not reasonable anymore because of other players in the market. I think there will always be new advertising platforms that come out. Like you look at like Clubhouse was big for a while, or Twitter, like all these other advertising platforms will arise. I don't think Google's going anywhere. I don't think YouTube's going anywhere. It's just going to depend on one thing, which is, can you profitably acquire a customer on those platforms? And if you can't, you need to go find other platforms and other mechanisms because they're out there. And the reason you haven't heard about them is because they're probably cheap and everybody's holding them under their wing.
I'm so glad you're sharing this. Thank you, seriously, because I two things with that. When you're saying it makes it so, one, I'm shocked you're saying none of them are going to disappear, because I think some may if they keep doing what they're doing. But sure, if they don't, there's the reality, because there's people going school of thought they're going to disappear. I don't know, but you can also make it so undesirable to use that. I never thought about the memory thing, but you're saying the big players are coming in. It's sad because these, I don't want to say pricks, but, oh, oops, my show. They still send this crap to the local business owner. And this is where I have a problem with ads because, of course, I want to grow and do more and help people, help 10,000 businesses with books. Seriously. But at the same time, when you get the local business owner who's just trying and grasping and really doesn't know, and then you get this free credit, and then they go on this platform, and once you get your card on there, they're just milking them. You get 1 million people even at 100 a month. They're not going to get results. They need to call someone like you to structure it. If you've never ran ads before, get some training, talk to Kyle, do something. If you try it on your own, you're going to get burned, pretty much is what my point. And it's sad because I really want to see these people succeed. So you're saying it gets to, do you advise anything other than Facebook ads right now or for the foreseeable next few years?
I'm a big proponent of advertise where it's profitable. And this is what takes me back to my numbers perspective and my KPIs is I'm shocked at how many people go and spend all this money on Facebook and they get the client in the door for a $7,000 program and it costs them $5,000 to get this person in the door. It's like, no wonder you're losing money. You're spending most of your revenue just acquiring the client, and yet you have no idea what it actually costs you. And so that's why I'm so big about numbers. It's like, if you can just know your numbers, you can at least begin turning off the platforms that just are outside of your numbers. Like, in order for me to acquire a client on Facebook right now, I would have to spend between $3,000 and $4,000, right? For my offer, that's not that much. But if I make one mistake like I did back in the summer, quickly you get $35,000 going out the door and you don't even realize it before it's all gone.
Did that have anything to do with a campaign going longer than it was supposed to?
It was a combination of things. It was campaigns going longer than they should have. It was spending more quickly to get more data, so we have bigger feedback loops. It was a series of things. We got to a place where it's like, hey, let's just spend a little bit more so we can see if we can get to the finish line. Like, we don't want to be 3 feet from gold. Let's spend a little more. And it was just purely emotional for me, even back in the summer. But like I said, like right now, I can send out a piece of like a letter. I can have a publishing house put together a letter that we use AI to write even these days. It's wild. Put together a cold sales letter that brings them online.
Direct mail, baby.
Direct mail. How many people are doing direct mail profitably today? A lot of people. And it's cheap and it's inexpensive and you can buy the lists. I'm going to share a little ninja hack with you. But one of my big plays this year is I think there's going to be a lot of people, especially in the online space, who kind of just go out of business. And if we can go in and start acquiring their email lists and their Facebook groups and their channels and all of those things for pennies on the dollar, you have my audience. How can I acquire it from you for really, really inexpensively?
Nice. I like that. Yeah, thank you for sharing all of this. And for any, I've not lost 35 grand on ads for that, but I remember we did this one campaign I was all excited about. We probably didn't double check stuff, and it was absolutely till infinity versus the end of the week. And then the other one was we set a dollar amount per, the amount per day. It was extra 0 or extra 2 zeros added, whatever the heck it was. And it was just like, I wasn't even supposed to be touching it. And I just was so excited. I went in there after, I think 24, 48 hours. I was like, what in the stop. I'm like, we need to reevaluate this because this would. So Facebook, their whole thing is, for anyone listening, they want to maximize your budget because in their thought process, it's, we want to get you as many clients as customers as possible, clients, whatever, but I know they care, they want it to be conversion, but at the end of the day, they're like, let's just run through this budget.
Literally.
They're getting it either way.
They have intentions to get your client, but it's a marketplace. It's just like eBay, right? If I don't sell it to you, I'm selling it to the next bidder. That placement on your news feed is getting sold to somebody. And that's the thing, is there's a surplus of people for them to sell to.
Yeah. So thanks for the truth and honesty, because It's one of the reasons I had a feeling about you and wanted you on the show, because some people, they say stuff and I'm like, yeah, there's no way. Just watch your language, bro. But I can tell enough, and I would never put anyone on the show here that I didn't think truly would be a good fit. So we're going to thank our sponsor and come back for the imperfect action round. You've heard me say every business needs a book, including yours, and it's true. And that's why I'm launching my new book at eapublishingmethodbook.com, so you can learn the 7 steps to publish and promote your nonfiction lead and profit-generating business book in 8 weeks. But you know what? Don't take my word for it. Take it from a few of my authors, like Lori.
And I went from having an idea and a possibility to actually getting my book published.
Or Catherine.
Thank you for making my mom #1 best-selling author.
Or Mary Alice.
What he got done for me in 3 days regarding my book launch, unmanageable.
John Cody.
I've worked with Mario over the phone and online, and he's been very helpful in getting me where I needed to go with promoting my books.
Rocio.
There's no way in the world I would have been able to do this with somebody else. I've attempted it in the past. It didn't serve me. As a matter of fact, I ended up more frustrated than anything. So this has been a very seamless process.
Adele.
If you're looking for an amazing business coach, I highly recommend Mario Ficini.
Or Bill Benner.
I can't make a higher recommendation than to work with Mario Ficini. He has been great for me, and right now I won't work with anybody else except for Mario.
Hey, their words, not mine. Visit eapublishingmethodbook.com to get your copy, and I look forward to hearing your transformation as our next video success story. Once again, that's eapublishingmethodbook.com. And we are back with the imperfect action round. Kyle, are you ready to take imperfect action?
Let's rock and roll, man.
All right. 3 questions for you, rapid fire response.
Right.
First one, what's the fastest path to the cash?
Ooh, fastest path to the cash is going to be the thing that you see right in front of you without having to complicate it to get to there. So for me, I have clients in front of me that I can go close, and I can either go hunt for new clients or I can just simply close those clients. So it's for me, it's right in front of me without creating complexities that our mind creates for us.
Keep it simple. For
It's
sure.
simple.
Number 2, what's the biggest problem you see your prospects making and the fastest way for them to fix it?
Biggest issue I see my prospects making is they're typically way too far into the day-to-day of the business without infrastructure. The fastest way to get there is like the Atlas analogy I gave you a little bit ago, is put a little bit of infrastructure in place to where the entire world's not dependent on you.
I love that. So many people. And that's why I was clapping, because I have absolutely felt it. And I love that you've made the differentiation from the visionary to the integrator. Like, you need people running stuff, but you also need to have more thinking time to be able to, vision stuff.
Yeah.
Number 3, what's the best way to maximize customer lifetime value?
Do what you say you're going to do, and then some.
Love it. Love it. Love it. I love that all the success secrets are really common sense stuff we learned that's, just be a good person, basically, variations, and that you're sharing it, because so many people, it's like, oh, like you said, the shiny object. I joke about that all the time. You have multi-million-dollar company. It's like, yeah, you really need that little thing that just came out 3 months ago. That's going to be are you kidding me? It's been 17 years.
Right. There's a quote. I'm trying to remember who said it. One of the classics. He basically says, I think it was Napoleon Hill says, there are no new fundamentals. Like, there are no new things. And in a world that we live in today, like, the analogy he continues to give is you got to be like skeptical of somebody who is taking you into a factory that's producing antiques. Like, you got to watch your wallet. And like, there are no new fundamentals in business. I preach this all the time. It's the same thing that businesses thrived on in 1860, the businesses thrive on in 2060. They're the same things. We just get so distracted by all of the minutia that's out there.
Right.
And people are drowning in opportunity, not drowning in, like, they're not starving due to a lack of opportunity anymore. It's just not
I
the thing.
love reading stuff from 100 years ago, 120 years ago, because it's like they didn't have the internet. They barely had cars, maybe. Like, yeah, I agree. We've been talking about books. What are some that have helped you along the way?
My top two right now are Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Love that one. And there's one by Dan Kennedy that he wrote called Almost Alchemy. And in essence, it's how to take your business that you have and use the materials and the things that you have in your business and turn them into pure profit and pure gold.
Nice.
And those two books are probably my favorite right now.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing those. Where would you like people to learn more?
You guys can always check out my podcast, Project Fortify Podcast. You can go on YouTube, type in my name, Kyle Livingston. Any of the socials, 7-figure Kyle is the handle. And if you guys need help with getting data and KPIs and things set up like that, we've actually built out a completely free dashboard for you to use so you can actually get that data. You can get that at visionaryvitals.com totally for free.
Wow, sounds awesome. Thank you for everything you've shared. I've thoroughly enjoyed this, and I know Expert Authority World has also.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man.
All right, Expert Authority World, we have another great episode here today. I'll see you on the next one. Have a great day, and God bless. You're already the expert, but have you transformed your expertise into a tangible asset that will generate qualified leads while increasing profit for you 24/7? And if so, how well are you promoting it? With my new book, The Expert Authority Effect Publishing Method, I take you through my process step by step. Visit eapublishingmethodbook.com today to learn the 7 steps to publish and promote your nonfiction lead and profit-generating business book in 8 weeks. Visit eapublishingmethodbook.com to get started now. Once again, that's eapublishingmethodbook.com. Thanks for listening to today's episode. I would love to know what you enjoyed most from it. If you haven't done so already, I invite you to connect with me on my new LinkedIn. You can go to it directly at eainterviews.com/LinkedIn. Once again, that's eainterviews.com/LinkedIn. Lastly, check out the full eainterviews.com site for complete show notes, the full interview video experience, links to the resources we mentioned, and more. Have a blessed day, and I'll see you on the next one.